After years of learning and months of work on this piece, I feel that I'm finally close to the precipice of professionalism. Let's get down to business. It's time to start working on guitar number 3 in this series. This one is loosely based off an Iceman, and it shares some of the same design flaws as the last guitar that I built because I started them all at the same time, and I've learned a lot since then. So I'm not sure if I can fix those design flaws or not, but we're going to continue moving forward regardless. So at least today I'm going to get the top on the wings. Just like the last 2 builds, I'm going to split the top and have the neck through core be revealed and have the top, the spalted maple, just be on top of the wings. So I'm going to cut these guys up to shape and glue them on, and then we'll figure out if I want to do something about this headstock. Okay, got these bad boys out of clamps. We're going to trim off the excess and get these nice and profiled, and then I decided I am going to try to fix this flawed headstock design. First, I cut out a piece of the headstock. And then I glue in an offcut. After thicknessing it on the bandsaw to create a new paddle, I draw on a new shape and cut that on the bandsaw. I then trace out a shape on some spalted maple, cut and resaw it on the bandsaw, giving me a top and a bottom, creating a little laminate sandwich here. Then we'll true it all up on the belt and spindle sander, along with the wings. Okay, time to thickness these wings. They're about a ½ an inch too thick, so let's run them through the planer. Cool. Okay, I've done a little perimeter sanding around, and I don't think there's anything that I'm missing that I would like to do while this is all separate, 3 separate pieces. So let's glue this thing together. I know that I'm going to do the standard comfort belly carve on the back, and I really love the sort of Kiesel style chamfer bevel on one side of the guitar, but I also really like what Barlow Guitars does and does a bevel along, or chamfer along, the entirety of the outside of the guitar. Definitely going to be doing a big carve out here so that I have access to that 24th fret right there. So let's map all that out and get a 45-degree chamfer bit on the router and start seeing how this thing's gonna look. Not really in love with it right now. I think I regret all of that, but there's no going back, so. Okay, off camera, I was playing with some CNC stuff. I'm not really great at CAD or CAM. As you can see, I had some failures. Definitely learning to use software and hardware. In the future, I will probably show you guys more failures. As fun as failing and learning is fun to watch, it's frustrating to film while failing so dramatically. As you can see, the first attempt was an utter failure. And then my y-axis was getting off because of some issues with the CNC itself, and they caused a bunch of really bad attempts. But nonetheless, we got there. This is what the control cavity is actually going to look like. This is the negative for the back plate. It's going to be the recess that the back plate will sit in. And then because lace alumitones are a little bit different than normal pickups, I had to make a specific pickup cavity template for them. Time for me to route these out. My microphone ran out of battery, so hopefully the audio's all right. I got the cavity all done for the most part. I'm gonna do a cleanup pass later, but I can't work anymore today because I have to get ready to go to actual work because this doesn't quite make me money yet. So, I'll be back tomorrow. Okie dokie. I don't have much time today, but I should be able to get these pickup cavities routed. After I got the pickup cavities routed, in the little bits of free time that I had, I was able to carve the neck and its transition to the body a little bit. All right, off camera, I have done a bunch of preliminary sanding up to 240, so that way I can do some grain filler, because Padauk has really wide pores, really big open grain in places that you can literally like stick your fingernail into. So I gotta fill that, especially on the neck. We don't want any kind of grainy ickiness. And I didn't fill it on a previous Padauk body that I built, and you can just see it in the finish, and it's not great. So I'm gonna use some Aqua Coat clear grain filler, because I don't want to have to tint a bunch of grain filler to make it orange, and I think it'll look fine. While I wait for each layer of Aqua Coat to dry, I get to work on the fretboard. I'm not sure that I love this miter box all that much, and I think in the future I'm going to switch to the CNC for all of my fretboards, but I still have a lot to learn there, so that has yet to be realized. My goal for the day is to get this fretboard as close to finish as possible and then get it glued onto the neck itself. So I'm going to do the inlays, I'm going to do the side dots, and we're going to put the frets on this thing and hopefully be able to glue it to the neck before the day is through. Inlays are going to be aluminum rings that I'm going to cut from this aluminum tube, and the side dots are going to be these 3 millimeter aluminum rod. So some metal working today, just need to cut these into usable sizes to put them into the fretboard. I'm gonna do some test pieces before I work with my actual fretboard, because I have learned the hard way about screwing up your workpiece. So I'm gonna grab a piece of Padauk that is an offcut, and we're gonna try to inlay these into that, and we're gonna see how that works out. Seems about the right size hole for the tube, but I need just a slightly smaller bit for the side dots, because this is too big. I don't think that I need to explain everything that I'm doing here, so I'm gonna shut up and let this montage roll. So I had a problem when I was trying to drill out a hole to run the wires through from pickup cavity to control cavity. The drill bit was a little off and would have popped out of the top of in between the pickups. That's a no-go. So the plan was to route out a small channel in between the pickups and replace it with an offcut from the exact same blank, which went decent, but in making up for one mistake or one problem, I made a couple others. So I was kind of being derpy and not really paying attention yesterday, and I dragged the router into the bottom of the bridge pickup cavity. So now there's a bit of a chunk out of that, which is not great. And then I also did not tighten the router bit in all the way, and it bored a hole through the back of the guitar. So that's really not great. Yeah, that really sucks. But what's going to happen is I'm not sure how I'm going to fix this little issue here, but I'm going to put my touch mark coin over that hole there. And we're going to pretend that never happened. So, fix one problem, create two more. The Hydra of craftsmanship. Love it. Whoops. Okay, so I was doing some finish sanding when I got the fretboard all glued up and out of clamps, and I see something peeking out from underneath the towel that I'm sanding over, and it's the truss rod. I forgot to put the truss rod back in its cavity before I glued the fretboard on. So after quite a few mistakes in a row here at the end of the build, I'm just going to let these montages take care of everything, and we're getting pretty close to the end here. So if you have any questions, drop them down in the comments. And with that, this thing is done, and I think it's absolutely beautiful. I'm really not feeling like a professional though after those dumb mistakes right at the end. I know that I have so much more to grow and so much more to learn, but I'm so happy with how this thing turned out. Stick around to the end here, we'll go over the cost breakdown and all of my final thoughts. Let's talk about how much it cost for me to build this guitar. If you're unfamiliar with this series, in 2025 I built 3 guitars. The first guitar using all the cheapest parts, the second guitar using mid-tier parts, and this guitar using all the name brand stuff that I think is a little overpriced. Let's talk about the lumber. First, the core lumber cost me $62.22. That's all this lumber here in the center of the guitar because it's a neck through. The wings cost me $87.55. That's all this lumber right here on the sides of the guitar. The spalted maple cost me $123.38. That's all of this stuff on the top of the guitar here, the back plate, as well as the back and front of the headstock. And lastly, the figureboard, this Paduke here, cost me $8.22, bringing our grand total for the lumber to $283.27. Next up, parts. For the bridge, I used this Schaller roller bridge, and it was $126.26, which I think is way overpriced. You can get the same thing from Geico for 40 bucks, and I think the design is pretty poor, but more on that later in the video. The pickups are lace alumitones, and they were $287.85, which is pretty standard for a name brand pickup. In my research, I thought that they were coil splittable, but when you split the coils, you're actually just splitting these 2 magnets here, and that only gives you half of the 6 strings. So they're, in fact, not coil splittable, and this does not work. More on that later. Also, I was hoping that the Paduke on the build was going to turn out a little more orange, so I went with the orange, and now I cannot find them in red, so we're sticking with the orange. The tuning machines are Hipshot open gear locking tuners, and they are fantastic, and they only cost me $64.76, which is great for a name brand tuner. I would buy them again and put them on any build. The PCB wiring harness I got from Gun Street Guitars, which is a switchable PCB, so you can change how you want the tone knob to react. Whether it's going to be vintage, modern, any of that stuff. And it was $129.95, which is a lot for a wiring harness. And also, it was more expensive for the coil split, which I cannot use, so I will be swapping out this in the future. The nut was $27.08, which is a lot for a nut, but I wanted to have roller bridge, roller nut, and give that system, but I'm not sold on it just yet. The knobs were $9.74. The frets were $14.71. The aluminum for the inlay was around $3, give or take. The string retainer bar was $3.75, and that brings our grand total for the parts and lumber of the build to $950.37. After wearing my tools and consumables such as sandpaper and hard wax oil finish, I'm going to round up to around $1,200. It's really difficult to track labor over the course of several months when I'm stopping and starting and veering off to learn something new and then coming back to the project. So I'm just going to say 40 hours at $40 an hour, bringing the total for labor around $1,600. So when I do go to sell this guitar, I'll be pricing it no less than $2,800, and with the addition of a case and shipping and handling, no less than $3,000. So are the expensive parts really worth it? Well, in the case of the Schaller bridge, I think no. I personally would never purchase one of these ever again. I think it's pretty poorly designed. You have to fully disassemble the bridge just to affix it to the guitar and then reassemble it. And then it's got some really finicky screws. It also has hex heads to adjust the intonation, which if you're using a standard Allen key, kind of scratch up the body. So it's almost mandatory that you buy a set of hex head driver bits to adjust the intonation. So overall, I think that for $126, you can either go with a cheaper option from Geiger for 40 bucks or just dismiss this route altogether. Next, the lace Alumatones. While they're sort of in the same price range that I would normally expect for a set of name brand pickups, I think they sound fine. But my sort of home base for a guitar setup is 2 humbuckers with a coil split, so you can have single coil tones and humbucker tones. And since you can't coil split these, I don't think I'll ever purchase them again, and I also can't find any more online anyway. In hindsight, I'd probably go with something more traditional and even more expensive. So, is more expensive more better in the pickups? I think yes. And that brings me to the harness from Gun Street, which is pretty expensive. $130 for a wiring harness when, as a luthier, I could do my own wiring is a little far-fetched. And since they've gone up to nearly $150, I think that pretty much rules it out unless you really do not want to learn how to solder. I also haven't had a chance to test it out because the coil split doesn't actually work with these pickups. I'll give you guys my final thoughts on this wiring harness on a later date, but as for right now, it's going to be coming out of this guitar and something else is going to be going in. So $150 for a wiring harness or $130 in my case, I think no. As for the Hipshot open gear locking tuners, $60 is not a crazy amount for a name brand, really, really good set of locking tuning machines. So I think 100% yes, I will buy these every time. Overall, I'm super happy with the build. In a couple months, I'm gonna come back and swap out this wiring harness, and I'll give you guys an update then. But for now, I'm just gonna enjoy playing this thing, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.